President Bashar al-Assad receives Inter-Parliamentary Union Secretary General Martin Changong. Six martyrs and an injured child in the new Israeli aggression on al-Amal farm in Quneitra as the Syrian Popular Resistance shells Israeli positions. Syrian Arab Army continues securing the safety of the citizens who resorted to it after being affected by Takfiri terrorism in Damascus countryside. And Ministry of Culture, in cooperation with the Theatre and Music Directorate, launched the Child Festive in al-Hamra Theatre in Damascus. Good afternoon. His Excellency President Bashar al-Assad has received today Inter-Parliamentary Union Secretary General Martin Changong, who voiced the Union's full support to Syria in combating terrorism, which has become a global challenge. President al-Assad stressed during the meeting that Syria is adherent to find a solution for the crisis via dialogue, adding that it would go on with the national reconciliations witnessed in many parts of the country. Mr. Changong said that his visit to Syria was very useful as he was become familiarized with the real situation on the ground, adding that he would clarify the reality in Syria through the IPU and back any effort that would contribute in finding a way out of the crisis in Syria via an inter-Syrian dialogue. His Excellency pointed out that the success of dialogue requires persistence in combating terrorism and that serious pressure should be exercised on the countries that are backing and arming terrorists, adding that the IPU and its member states could play an active role in this respect. In a press conference, Mr. Martin Changong said,
"We have come with the backing of the parliamentary community to see how we can help the Syrian people re-establish normalcy in their country, re-establish stability, and of course move forward towards lasting development." So we take back with us the information that we have gathered here. We take back with us the data that has been provided to us by the various authorities here. We come away with a stronger commitment to continue to work with the Syrian people to alleviate their suffering, to put an end to their suffering. We have also come here to look at how we can help resolve the issue of terrorism and extremism, which is something that is not specific to Syria. It is something that is a global phenomenon, and we believe that it is important that for a global problem we need global solutions.
Speaker of the People's Assembly Mohammed Jihad al-Laham discussed with Inter-Parliamentary Union Secretary General Martin Changong efforts to rally and unite international efforts to confront terrorism and extremism. Al-Laham said that Syria is always open to cooperate with good efforts and honest intentions to help the Syrians overcome the crisis and stem the tide of terrorism. In the same context, Deputy Prime Minister, Foreign and Expatriates Minister Walid al-Muallim met with Changong. Al-Muallim affirmed that it is absolutely important that the parliamentarians in their positions as representatives of the peoples in the world be familiar with the reality of what is taking place in any part of land where there is a conflict. Syria, he added, is a particular case here where a globally devised conspiracy is targeting its people and civilization. Talks during the meeting also tackled the issue of combating terrorism and the need that international efforts in this regard be unified, as well as the role which the parliamentarians could play in clarifying the dangers of terrorism on regional and international security. Jordanian Foreign Minister Mohammed Jawad Zarif severely condemned the Israeli aggression on al-Amal farms in Quneitra. A military source had said that within the framework of supporting the armed terrorist groups, Israeli helicopter fired 2 missiles from inside the occupied territories towards al-Amal farms in al-Quneitra, killing 6 people and severely injuring a child. Information Minister Omran al-Zabi said that the Israeli aggression on Quneitra is not surprising and that it is a continuation of the crimes committed by the occupation entity since the beginning. He affirmed that it comes within the framework of supporting terrorist organizations which are internationally placed on the list of terrorism. In an interview with Al-Manar TV, al-Zabi said that the Israeli entity is acting in a clear and uncovered manner by providing the direct support to the armed terrorist organizations, particularly al-Nusra, which is enlisted by the UN as a terrorist organization. This reveals the sum of the Israeli complicity with the terrorist groups in Syria. Minister al-Zabi pointed out that the Israeli occupation is depending on the role of the terrorist organizations, counting on it to be like the role of the buffer zone between it and the Syrian army and people. Minister of Information called on the international organizations, particularly the United Nations, to act in a manner consistent with the UN Charter and the resolutions that are related to the occupied Syrian Golan. Syrian Arab Army units continued purging Abu al-Duhur area from al-Nusra, Ahrar al-Sham and other terrorist organizations that operate in full coordination with Erdogan's regime. A military source said that Syrian Arab Army units eliminated many terrorists and injured others in Abu al-Duhur, Talab and Tel Salmo, destroying their criminal tools as the citizens in these areas had been under repeated terrorist attacks that forced a large number of them to flee after the terrorists destroyed their houses and robbed their properties. In Idlib's western countryside, Syrian Arab Army carried out several operations against terrorist hideouts in the villages of Zayzoun and Ain al-Bara, killing many of them. 2,112 people were evacuated yesterday from eastern Ghouta, escaping the unspeakable atrocities of terrorist organizations which are operating in the area.
Escaping from Douma, Jober and the surrounding areas, the people turned to a military post located near Hosh al-Fara. As a military source mentioned, the evacuees were provided with all the urgent requirements for them to be later moved to makeshift housing centers. Nearly 1,049 children and 639 women were among the evacuees, along with over 350 gunmen who turned themselves in to the police. A series of evacuation operations have been carried out by the army recently to rescue people who are trapped in areas taken over by the terrorist organizations. Today's operation came one day after the army secured the safe exit for 1,687 people from various villages and farms of eastern Ghouta, who were taken through Adr al-Balad road and moved into a temporary residential center in Qudsaya suburb in western countryside of Damascus, including a huge number of children and women. The residents of eastern Ghouta have been subject to highly extremist rules imposed by Takfiri organization. Among those organizations are the so-called Jaish al-Islam and Jaish al-Ummah, which included foreign mercenaries. The people are having their homes stormed by the terrorists and are being robbed, looted, starved, and not least, getting killed.
Under the auspices of Mrs. Asma al-Assad, the activities of honoring the winners in the Syrian Scientific Olympics started in Al-Assad House for Culture and Arts. The participants in the finals of the Syrian Scientific Olympics had marched in a carnival procession from the Sheraton Hotel to the Opera House, where the final results will be announced, naming the members of the national team which will represent Syria in the International Scientific Olympics. President of the National Commission of the Syrian Scientific Olympics said that the march sends a message to the world that despite all difficulties, the Syrian youth will continue to seek science. Syria persists in its steadfastness and in encouraging the distinguished science seekers. In turn, participants in the march who came from different governorates carried banners demonstrating their unity, steadfastness and support to the Syrian Arab Army in its fight against terrorism. The finals of the Syrian Scientific Olympics for this year has started yesterday at the Sheraton Hotel in Damascus, with the participation of 381 young men and women from all Syrian governorates to determine the top winners in Syria in math, physics, chemistry, natural science, and informatics. Welcome back. Education Ministry and the United Nations Children's Fund held a workshop to discuss Syria's national strategy to increase awareness on the dangers of unexploded ordnance of the terrorist war raging in the country. The workshop mainly discusses means of building the capabilities of societies in the field of protection against unexploded ordnance and updating mechanisms to improve awareness-raising programs. Minister of Education said that he follows the course of the educational process to adapt to the raising requirements due to the current situation. The major focus of these patterns, he added, is physically protecting children against unexploded ordnance, including ammunition, explosives, bombs, and mines, which could be left behind after the war is over or in the areas announced secure after terrorists were expelled. The UNICEF resident representative in Syria said that the children's safety and security have been critically affected due to the crisis in Syria, where terrorist organizations have spread and committed horrible acts of crime in various areas. This matter, she added, requires protecting children and raising their level of awareness of how they can protect themselves against unexpected ordnance. She hailed the great and constant efforts which the Education Ministry has put to the effect of achieving the goal of protecting children in this regard. The Ministry of Culture, the Directorate of Theatre and Music, launched Children's Theatre Festival at al-Hamra Theatre in Damascus. The festival started with an exhibition of children's drawings aiming at developing their imagination. Syria's future was displayed in the drawings in which the children expressed their feelings toward their homeland. It is worth mentioning that the Children's Theatre starts today and it would last until January 25th, including plays and activities for children. With this, we conclude our news for today. Thank you for watching. For more details about Syria and the region and to view this bulletin again, you can always visit our website in English, syriaonline.sy. Now to latest business and market news with Syrina, but after a short break.